Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm your host, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation. I want to thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight's going to be a little bit of a different type of show, but it's still um, it's still about love and loss and learning how to carry grief. But first, we've got to do our business part because it's very, very important. Because otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to be here. So I want to thank John with Area 52 Media Group, our producer. They're awesome. We got Joseph behind the scenes again today. I'm so grateful for that. If you want to have your own show, you have any kind of crazy ideas, please contact John. You don't have to be anywhere near where we are. We're doing this remotely. They're in Georgia, and I'm in Florida in the office of the foundation, and it works awesome. Also, Delynn Gaston with the mortgage firm, Anything Mortgages. Great sponsor, great gal. Believe me, I wouldn't even know how to even handle that type of world, and she does great. And so, please, if you're thinking about buying your first home, refinancing, anything mortgages, please contact Delynn. And two, you don't have to be in Florida or Georgia. Well, maybe one of the two. But anyways, and also our other sponsor, Tammy White Galleries and Custom Framing. And two, remember that Tammy White Galleries and Area 52 Media Group also are the sponsors and hosts of Art for Hope, which we'll talk about in a minute. Summertime, we're still having our support groups. So our next ones, I can't believe it's already past the middle of July. June. So in July, our next support group for Spring Hill is going to be on July 8th at the NAMI Hernando office at 6:30. And then the Newport Richie support group is going to be 123 July 16th at the Oasis Coffee Spot in the bookstore. Remember, these are free to attend. You don't need to pre-register. It's a safe place for you to come, and if you want to talk, you can talk. You don't have to. If you want to listen, you can listen. It's a peer-to-peer support group. The facilitators are also loss survivors, so everybody understands. So, and what else do we got? Oh, just a reminder, it's still June, so it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Men's Health Awareness Month. So they're combining the two, mental health and physical health go hand in hand. So Men's Health Awareness Month, they do this as a lead up kind of to Father's Day. But all men and boys, health awareness, please. So, I had mentioned it just a few minutes ago. Area 52 Media Group and Tammy White Galleries sponsor and host Art for Hope, which is coming up September 10th, which happens to be International Suicide Prevention Day. This is our 9th annual event, and it's the first time that it's actually on that day. We always have it the week of it. It's also September is Suicide Prevention Month. The week of September 10th is International Suicide Prevention Week. So we always have it, that week, the Thursday evening. And this year it falls on the day, September 10th. It's a free event to attend at the Hilton Garden Inn. They've been gracious hosts. We've had the event there all 9 years. It's an evening of art, education, awareness, gift basket raffles, light hors d'oeuvres, music, It's a great event to attend. It's not sad. Um, it's just a great event to attend for community awareness. So now we get into the meat and potatoes this week, and this has been a really difficult week for us here. Not just for me, but my neighbor, and you know, and you might wonder, what does this have to do with suicide? Well, it actually has everything to do with it because it's just part of the whole thing, the whole life kind of cycle thing. Um, I've talked about haven't mentioned my neighbor Cathy a lot throughout this because she's been a big part of my life. She was a part of Bobby's life. Um, my healing, just managing every day. Um, she, about 12 and a half years ago, well, she had a couple dogs and they passed away. And she ended up getting another dog. She liked chows. And she got this little baby chow. She's a little blonde chow. And yeah, that's her. That's Stella. Stella, grown up Stella. But she was a part of our lives for 12 and a half years. And she passed away this past weekend suddenly. And I wanted to tell you why it is important for me to talk about her in this tonight. You can take it down. I can't do that. Thank you, Joseph. Oh, and here comes my cat. So Cathy got this chow, Stella, and it was kind of funny at the beginning, sort of, because Cathy's a little bit older than me, not like by a whole lot, but when she got this chow, Bobby told her that she had better outlive that dog because he knew that if something happened to Cathy, we'd end up with the dog. And I don't know how that would have worked out because chows, and particularly Stella, did not like cats. Stella didn't like any animal. She didn't even like men. She didn't even like Bobby. But she didn't like any man. But it was just really kind of funny because, Bobby was like, if you're going to get that dog, you better outlive it. And we're not going to end up having to take care of that dog. And blah, 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 blah. Well, Stella outlived Bobby. We all did. But a couple months ago, Stella had, we don't really know what it was. It was whether it was a seizure or a stroke, and it was very dramatic. It was awful. And she's a big dog, and so it really, Cathy had to call me and her friend Ruth, and it took both of us to get her in the Jeep to get her to the vet. She came out of it. It was weird. And she came home, and I guess we all kind of got a false sense of security that, she was going to be okay. And last Saturday, early morning, she had another one, and Cathy said it was way, way, way worse than the first time. And I couldn't imagine that because it was so bad the first time. But fortunately, this time, Cathy's son, Justin, and his family were here visiting. And so when this happened in the wee hours of the morning, Justin and Wendy were there to help. And then I got the text a couple hours later that she had passed. You know, just like people, our pets are just as important, if not more. You know, Stella was Cathy's life for 12 and a half years. And it's been really hard. I mean, it's hard for all of us, but for Cathy, it's, extremely hard. And even, for me, because Cathy would say that I was Stella's person, that Stella loved me more than her mom. And I was her second mom. And it was really kind of funny too, because if anybody um, came over here and Stella was outside, she'd be standing in the driveway looking over here, and or alerting Cathy that somebody was here that in her eyes shouldn't have been here. Um, that's when Cathy put that she took down the 6-foot privacy fence and put up a 4-foot fence with a gate after Bobby died. So just, so that we can help each other and keep tabs on each other, and for safety, because we're two women, here by ourselves. But um, Stella was such an integral part of all of that. Um, she did have a nickname though, and I probably shouldn't even say it, because in that picture she looks just like the sweetest little thing, which she was. I mean, to me, she was, anyways. She really wasn't even very nice to Cathy's son and grandsons, but she was, to me, she was just always different. But anyways, I forget where I'm going with this. It's not an easy thing, but I needed to be able to share with you and tell you guys about her and about what's going on. Um, I know Cathy wasn't ready for it the other day. I took her over a book, and uh, since we started this series over 5 years ago, one of my favorite um, people on grief authorities, I guess. I don't know how I put it, but Dr. Ellen Wolfelt. We've gone through and have introduced several of his books over the last several years, but he also does books on pet grief and pet loss, which is really important, because to for a lot of people, our pets are our other children. They're our fur babies. So one of the books that I am featuring tonight is the book "When Your Pet Dies: A Guide to Mourning and Remembering and Healing." Um, it's on his website. That's the one right there. Yeah. And like with his other books that we have introduced, this book has action in it too. I have, you see my book, it has all these stickies on here, all these important things that I was, excuse me, came up to me as I was going through it again. One thing it just popped into my head. So when Stella was young, because so she was like probably 2 years old, because Bobby was still here, and Jack, our cat that I lost a few years ago. Jack was a baby. I think he was probably like about a year old, and we had lost his sister, Chasey, and Chasey hadn't been gone, I don't know, maybe a week or two. We lost her, unfortunately, her and some chickens to coyotes one night. And don't get on me about having a cat outside at night, because there's some animals that you just can't tame. And Chasey was an indoor cat for 6 years. And then all of a sudden she decided that she wanted to be outdoor more than indoor. She cried for 6 hours straight. She was a beautiful cat. Anyways, after we lost Chasey, I get a call from Cathy, and she's like, I think Jack's in the backyard. And I'm like, oh no. And he wasn't only in the backyard, he was up this ginormous oak tree in her backyard. She said he was all the way on the other side of the backyard, and Stella saw him, and Stella started chasing him, and Cathy had to tackle Stella so that Stella wouldn't get Jack, and Jack went up the tree. So I went over. I'm walking down the driveway to where the oak tree is, and Jack sees me. So he comes running down the tree into my arms, and I take him back home. And needless to say, he was grounded for a week. And that's when I went to the Humane Society and got Max. Jack never went back over to Cathy's house after that. But I don't know how she tackled him because she's got a bum knee. And it's worse now because of just getting older. But I could just imagine that. But one of the Stella stories. But anyway, so I took this book over. The kids were still here from Colorado, but I just took it over and put it on the table and put it upside down. And she kind of picked it up and looked at it. And she goes, I'm not ready for that. I'm like, I know you're not. But that's why I put it upside down. I said, when you are, it's here. This is part of our library for the foundation. I really have given this book to a couple other people that we have come across that had lost their beloved pets. But anyways, so in the front of the book, in the very beginning, this is just it. It's so much similar as to when we lose our people. Because he has this in his other books that we have introduced. So, and I haven't done this yet because I don't know how I could do this because I would have to do little pictures of Stella and Jack and Felix we just lost a couple of years ago. But as in here in the beginning, here's a photograph of my special pet that died, and you can put the photo of your pet with the name and the year. But I wanted to share some other things about grief and your pet. And it does. And if you've listened to, any of our shows that we have featured as books, you're gonna see the correlation. It's not much different, really. As here, how your grief is unique. We talk about that with our people. My grief is with my husband is different than anybody else's grief when it comes to Bobby, and yours is going to be different than anybody else's with your person or with your pet. So, has here the nature of the relationship you had with your pet. Yeah. See, and I can only do so much of this, really. The circumstances of the death. With Stella, it was getting to the point because she was 12 and a half. She was a child. She was a big dog. I think for me, because I wasn't with her 24/7, but for Cathy, she has shared, that she was beginning to have some anxiety about what was happening with Stella, particularly after the incident with the seizure in April. And then just because of her personality, she was hard to groom. So um, she didn't like really other people very much, um, and so she had to be sedated, and it was really tough on her. And as time went on, it got harder, and she did get groomed not long before this last recent incident, and it was so hard. It was awful. And Cathy said she was never going to do it again. Well, now she doesn't. Now she won't have to do it again. But it was just things like that were just getting really hard on Stella and on Cathy, and she was starting to have a lot of anxiety about it because um, it was just to put Stella through that and put her through it. And even prior to going to the groomer, it would give Cathy anxiety because knowing that she'd have to do this in order, and it was because her fur was just so thick, and this last time her fur was just, it was just so thick and matted, and she had to be shaved down, and it was just, I mean, for her own benefit, even though it caused a lot of trauma and stress um, on Cathy. But it's, and she even said she had, you know, a false sense of security after that first episode. And I have to say, you know, I thought, and I shared this with Justin, that I thought, you know, I kind of figured that it was going to happen again. I, you know, of course, didn't know when, but I really thought that we had, you know, maybe 6 months or a year, and we didn't. It was like a month and a half, and I don't know, I don't know. So, also, each of ours unique personality. You know, we're all different. We all handle things different. Um, your support system. Uh, you know, I yesterday I told Cathy that, you know, I said I would just wish I could take your pain away. And you know, she says to me, she said, you know, why? You know, she said, I couldn't do that for you. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but it's, you don't want to see the people that you care about hurting so bad. But yeah, I mean, it's true, and we just have to go through it and deal with it. Um, and really, I guess that's the only way that everybody's going to heal. We can't take our pain and the pain away from the people that we care about, but we can be there on their journey to help them heal. Other crises or stresses in your life at the time. Um, you know, for us, it's, you know, our journey has been so much, you know, the last 10 years, you know, dealing with Bobby's suicide death, but everything is just so intertwined. Stella was so intertwined with all that, and you know, when she was a baby, we took her out at night during what do you New Year's, to so that she wouldn't be afraid of the loud noises and stuff. But you know, as she got older, she didn't like loud noises. She didn't even like thunder and the rain. When the storms came, she got really bad anxiety about that. And even though, you know, we tried to do that when she was a baby to alleviate that, but it didn't really work. Misconceptions about pet grief. Our society fosters a number of misconceptions about pet lovers' grief after the death of a pet. Don't allow yourself to buy into the misconceptions. If you do, you will feel ashamed of your grief and your healing will be hindered. Misconceptions. You don't need to grieve because it was just a pet. Well, fortunately, all my pet lovers, we know better. it's the people that aren't pet lovers that I think that, comes from, and that's not our people. It hurts less because it was just a pet. No. If you cry too much after a pet dies, you're being too emotional. Mm-mm. I don't see Cathy cry very much, but I've seen the tears. Pets don't have souls, so they can't go to heaven. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's another thing. Okay. And I've shared this before with Bobby. It still happens all around our property. I'll be doing something, and all of a sudden, a Budweiser beer can will pop up. It's Bobby. So yesterday, I stopped by. I was coming back from Walgreens because I had this thing printed up, which we'll show here in just a few minutes. But I wasn't going to show Cathy right away, but she was taking the garbage out, and she saw what I had in my hand, so I had to show her. I said, "I'll show it to you, but you can't keep it quite yet." And I know, and she knew, kind of. She says, "You're gonna make me cry," and but anyway, so we were sitting in a living room, and she'd cleaned up like where the floor was, the rug where Stella would eat her little crunchies. And we look over, and on the step are 3 little crunchies. And she says, "I cleaned those up. What are those doing there?" And I said, "It's Stella letting you know that she's here." I said, "It's no different than Bobby's Budweiser cans." She's, and, some of the things that I say to her or said to her over the years, it's kind of like with Bobby would say my voodoo stuff. And now she's kind of seeing that. But anyways, I didn't get as far through this book, of course, as normal, as I wanted to. Well, I'll share some more next week. But I wanted to show you, this is what I made, and this is our quote. If Joseph, you could bring that up. "The loss of a beloved companion animal cuts deeply into our hearts, but the love we shared becomes part of us and never leaves. Grief is the price we pay for the privilege of loving so completely. Healing is not forgetting, it is learning to carry their memory with us gently, gratefully, for the rest of our lives." These quotes are from the book, from Dr. Wolfelt. Rest in peace, Stella. You were a great part of my healing for the last 10 years. You'll never be forgotten. So please keep these phone numbers in your phone. Memorize easy 988. You never know whether a person or an animal will give you the hope. Take care. Thank you for joining us this evening.